again, guys. Welcome. This is the 8th episode of the Kyle Hartman Project. I cannot thank you guys enough for tuning in. If you're tuning in a second, third, multiple time, thanks for coming back. I love that you guys are following along with what I have to put out. If this is your first episode that you're just checking on, it's a good one. I have a good story to tell. A lot of updates on what I have going on, things of that nature. So stay tuned. It's going to be about a 25-minute skit, maybe 20. I am doing this on the fly. I had been posting, for some of you that follow me on social media, I've been posting a lot about my next guest being on this show. And so unfortunately, just with how busy both of our schedules are, him and I decided that we were going to buy ourselves another week to get the interview scheduled and set up and make sure everything is just perfect for you guys. And so I want everybody to kind of keep in the back of their head, it was stressful for me when things like that happen because, I do put out a lot of stuff leading up to the show to get you guys excited and to let you guys know what I have going on for that episode. And so it's hard for me when the episode falls through, and I want to stress about it a lot because it doesn't seem like it's perfect enough or it's not working flawlessly, whatever. What I realized and what I've been learning and teaching myself every single day, and what I really want to push you guys to try to do for yourselves, is that you just got to keep rolling with the punches. I stopped seeing this as a downfall because John is going to be on my show. His name is John Kane. He just created a huge company. And the day that we scheduled to do the interview, he actually was his first day with his full staff in his new office for his company. So it was just a huge, huge day for him. He is a social media guru. He is on every platform nonstop every day, and it's nothing but brilliant, brilliant content. And so I get it. I strive to be as big of a monster as he is in the industry someday. So I want you guys to kind of check him out. No matter when we do the show, I want you guys to check him out because he has helped me a lot. This guy has had talks with Gary Vaynerchuk, commonly known as Gary V. He's had talks with Mark Cuban, and he is going to be on my show. I got a hold of this guy on LinkedIn. And so very powerful stuff for me. I think it's going to be very powerful stuff for anybody that listens to the show. It'll definitely help you guys out if you check him out. He's a funny dude. He's from the East Coast, so we're looking forward to that. For now, I want to talk a little bit about the YouTubers that I had on my last episode, Ebb Tide Vlog, Adrian and Jason. They just released our video form of our episode, which was, episode 7. They filmed the whole episode that we did, so that's up on YouTube. Make sure to go check them out. They did me such a big favor for coming on the show. They are very talented at what they're doing, and I see them going very far. So it'll be cool for you guys to check them out now and, follow them along and really be one of their first true fans for when they blow up, because they didn't hesitate to help me out and collaborate with me. So, if you guys get involved now, start doing what it is that you want to do or create. These guys would be willing to get you out to LA and to do something with you as well. And I would be pushing for that to happen as well. So that's what this is all about. Just stay networked with everybody that I bring on my show. And check out the video. It's really interesting. What's cool too is we have a whole nother show coming out for you guys as well, which is more of a vlog episode. The first one, the one that is currently out, is more of just an interview. So it's more for you guys to really understand kind of what they were saying during the podcast. You get to see their mannerisms, things of that nature, and you kind of get to hear what they said over again if you listen to my show already. So check it out. It's really interesting. It was really fun to work with those guys and learn kind of how it works to create, video, because right now all I'm focusing on is audio. So everything I do is a learning process, and I really want to try to help somebody out there learn from what I've learned as well, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. So as I said, we had a bit of a scuff with this episode. It was supposed to have a guest, but I have absolutely no problem sticking to my weekly routine and just being by myself, because I came up with this episode, what I was going to talk about, weeks ago. It's just one of those things that when you start building content, you learn to start putting a lot of things in your back pocket for when situations like this occur. And so I want to talk a lot, you've seen it in the title already, Airbnb. This company has been just so much inspiration for me once I started learning about them, the founders, their story. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the story behind them because I don't want to butcher all the facts, simply. I don't want to sit here and read a story from you guys from my phone, from Wikipedia. I'm going off of everything that I've put in my own head from listening to podcasts, listening to them speak, reading, things of that nature. I've just gathered my own knowledge. And I want to tell you guys the cool parts of the story that I think are helpful for me. One thing that you guys should know about the first two co-founders, Brian and Joe, they were design students together. One lived in San Francisco, I believe it was Joe. Brian lived in LA. This is after they graduated. And so Joe convinced Brian eventually to move up to San Francisco. They were going to start a company together. But Brian down in LA was already working a full-time job, something to do with insurance. But he made the decision, he quit his job, he calls Joe, he moves up to San Francisco, and shortly after I think that happened, the landlord gave them a notice that the rent was going to increase substantially due to Brian moving in, I believe. So that's when they first started with their typical problems, and I think that's the point where a lot of you, or a lot of us, I should say, fear pursuing our dream because, okay, you got to think Brian quit his job and just uprooted and had no plan, but knew Joe well enough and knew that they had a vision already set that they created in college that they were going to do this together. And so that had to just be so scary, and I can't even imagine doing that. And it's times like that where I think a lot of big business owners and leaders get offended when people say, oh, you're so lucky. And I think a lot of people are like, no, I'm not. I did things like that where they just uprooted or, did something drastic, made a huge change, because sometimes that's what it takes. And so when they first got there, they're already in trouble with their rent, and at this point they don't really know what they're going to do with the business, what ideas they're going to come up with. But now they kind of had an obstacle that they didn't intend for, but now they had to get creative on how to afford living together. So with the Democratic election in progress, basically, they started looking into, like I said, they were design students. They got very creative, which is something I think all entrepreneurs have to do on a regular basis. But they decided to start renting out their apartment. They bought 3 air mattresses, blew them up, put them in their apartment. They decided that they were going to allow guests for these Democratic conventions or this Democratic, I think it was some design convention or something along the lines of that, when hotels were filling up basically in the area. So they opened up their home, had people sleep on air beds, they provided breakfast, and then they tried to incorporate the conference and, make it sort of like a business networking type of environment at the beginning. So in the beginning, it was sort of like a setup for business conferences in major cities, was what they thought. Well, they had their guests there and then launched a couple times, failed a couple times because the idea of, if you think about it, the idea of an Airbnb seems crazy to a lot of us. To this day, a lot of people that I ask about Airbnb, they immediately come up with security and trust and things like that. There's a lot of fear there. So if you really think about the idea of Airbnb and now think that they just got valued at $31 billion, they're in over 190 countries now. So if in your head you still think it's a crazy idea, I want you to also understand that they took that idea and made it a $31 billion idea. And that's why I'm so inspired by these guys, because it almost seems so impossible to do what they did. And so when they started launching and started failing the launches, they had to get more creative, and it was a really hard thing for them, I think. So what they did was they created the idea of, let's provide, we already provide breakfast, let's make cereal for the convention. And so this is where the story gets kind of funny, kind of comical, but it's something to really pay attention to, because they had to really go through some tough times and really get creative to get to where they are. And so they wanted to create democratic cereal for this campaign, for when, you know, people would stay in the Airbnbs, then they would go to the website and then they could buy the democratic cereal for when they stay at the convention. And so they came up with Obama O's, and then, you know, they thought about, well, we can't leave out John McCain. And so they came up with Captain McCain's, and they went on this big path of, you know, figuring out how that was going to work. And little did they know, every cereal company wanted nothing to do with them. Every major cereal company turned them away. All the local cereal companies were up for it, but they wanted like $200,000 to print the box, you know, design all that, and then produce the cereal into the boxes. And so there again, a big idea that they had to rework to make something happen, and then they still had no guarantee that that was going to work. And at this point, they were so far in debt. So when you guys think about wanting to quit or wanting to stop, whatever it is you're chasing, I hope that this story kind of gives you some sort of inspiration. I hope you check these guys out after this podcast and start looking at other people's stories more often, because for me, when I feel like, oh, okay, this guest does, you know, we can't make this episode happen this week, there's times where I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? Instead of stressing, I just focus on stories like this, and I'm like, okay, right now it's not that hard compared to how bad they had it, and they're a $31 billion company now. So they found somebody who was willing to print the boxes, but they still had no cereal. And the guy that was willing to print the boxes decided that he would do it for free. He was going to give them 1,000 boxes. So they had 500 Barack Obama O's, and then they had 500 Captain McCain's. And so they had to figure out a way to put cereal in the boxes. And so what they ended up actually doing was going to the cheapest stores, buying the cheapest dollar bags of Cheerios and Captain Crunch, and filling their boxes that they got made for free with those cereals off the shelf. And they sold these boxes of cereal for $40 a piece on their website during these conventions. And believe it or not, they sold out. So they had 800 boxes, or I'm sorry, 800 or 1,000 boxes, I don't know which number, but $40 a piece. You do the math. That was 20 to 30,000 bucks that they were, you know, that they basically were in debt from the couple years of trying to launch and not succeeding. But that was huge. And the reason why that was so huge is after paying off their debt, they spent what little bit of money they had left and actually went to, let's see, where did they go? It was something in New York, I think. Yeah, so it was in New York, and this is where they kind of got noticed on selling all those online, not only, but there was a computer programmer, and he invited them to like a training session for his startup incubator, Y Combinator, and it gave them like an additional $20,000 in funding for a small part of the company, and then the website, you know, they built up a little bit of profit there too. So basically that kind of got them their first big investment within the company. And so then they were able to build up from there. By like 2009, they had 10,000 users and 2,500 listings, which really isn't a whole lot still. But this is when they started to make traction. And so the big story was just the first part, and I'll leave it there with kind of their story. But what I really want to display is just kind of how creative they had to get. You know, they went as far as figuring out how they could turn politics into a way to generate business on a website. You know, and it was all revolved around an idea that was going to have people stay in other people's homes, for business conferences. And so now if you look at what they are now, they are just doing so much, and it's crazy to me because I don't really see them as a business anymore. I see them as a brand. I see Airbnb evolving into a humongous brand that's going to change a lot of things in the world. And I think that's why they're already a $31 billion company when, only a couple years ago, they were launching 3, 4, 5, and 6 times and getting nothing. And having to go buy cereal from a Dollar General or what have you, and put it in some cereal box and just not having a guarantee that that's actually going to sell to anyone. And so having that perseverance, I think that goes a long way. It's just not quitting. One of the coolest parts about this story, it ties into the quote that I'm actually going to leave you guys off with after this episode. So that's the story there. One big thing that I try to do with the podcast and with Hartman Media, one of the things that Hartman Media is trying to incorporate with our business is really, really displaying not only the story of how people got to where they are, but really displaying the fact that, it's super easy to create these experiences. And one of the things that Airbnb just came out with was Airbnb experiences, which was funny because when they came out with that, I had actually already messaged people within Airbnb to try to do something along those lines with Hartman Media, where they could potentially, maybe let me have people come there for free for a weekend to promote and to create a commercial for their brand or something along those lines. So it was really cool to see that they're already on that level. They've already gone past trying to be something that, is just for a business conference, because over the course of them building, just the market showed them a whole new world. And now they're coming out with these stories that are just so incredible of, now it's more of a hospitality thing where people are getting to travel, and not only that, they're getting to experience the viewpoint from someone on the inside who is from there or knows the origins of everything. And so they're really getting these good experiences out of what they do. And so I think it's a really cool company. It's one that I follow really closely. I'm really honored to talk about them on my show. I didn't ask their permission, so hopefully they don't sue me. But yeah, that's the story that, kind of just really inspires me when I start feeling like, things aren't going to work out, or if I start questioning what's my next move, because I have the end vision. It's just putting the pieces together to get there. And I know it's going to happen. I know for a lot of you it's going to happen, so I'm really excited. So we have about 5 minutes remaining, and I just really want to take the time to explain kind of what I think I'm going to be doing soon for the podcast. Websites are coming. I don't have good Wi-Fi where I stay, and I don't have my own computer. I really tried to do everything from my phone as far as building the website, but I'm really just trying to be patient to get a computer on my own. So once I have a website for the podcast, we're going to start actually scheduling things more. I'm going to start having email coordination with everybody, where anybody that wants to be on the show, there's going to be links to register. It's going to be super simple for all of you to follow me along the journey. We're going to be starting to look into getting out on more platforms as well. We're going to start pulling from being strictly YouTube to being on, 6, 7, 8 different platforms. I'm working on getting into Medium. That's another big social media platform that I'm going to be investing a lot on through Hartman Media, things like that. So check out Medium, see what it's about. If you're trying to build a brand, it's huge right now for you. So do that. One other big thing I want to talk about is on the websites, I'm going to be building portfolios. So for anybody on my show, same thing for Instagram, I'm going to have portfolios, basically just a quick summary of what the person's about, what our show incorporated, just really trying to promote them. Not only do I want to put you guys on my podcast, but I want to share everything that you're doing. I want to tell the world who these people are that I'm partnering with and why I'm partnering with them. And I want to help inspire more and more people. So it's all just going to revolve around sharing your tags, your handles, your content if you come on my show. Let's see here. So there's one other thing I wanted to really touch on that I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, but there is just a lot that's been going on within my life, within everything that I do, that has just been screaming to me that I need to be doing more within the veteran community. And so one future episode that I'm beyond excited to have for you guys is Warriors on Track. You'll see a lot of that stuff that I post on Facebook and Instagram. These guys are veteran owned. They're a nonprofit. They have race cars that they put disabled vets and vets struggling with PTSD, things of that nature. They give them like a 4-week program where they train them to be a pit crewman to turn wrenches on the race cars during live racing events. And so I had the pleasure of going down to Irvine, California this past weekend with my son, Ollie. We went to this big car show where they had a tent, a booth. It was really, really humbling to go down there, but it also really opened my eyes to the fact that I really need to start speeding up what it is that I want to do to help veterans and to really promote the veteran community, just bettering itself and helping out our fallen brothers and sisters. So these guys have a lot of really cool things coming up. So we planned to talk in the near future. So stay tuned on that. I immediately, if a lot of you guys don't know me, I come from a huge racing background. I grew up in the Indiana dirt track racing world. So racing to me is a big part of my life. It's huge. I'm not involved with it so much as I am just in love with it. And so my first question to him was, what's your plan to get these veterans into driving opportunities? Because I think that would be humongous along with turning wrenches. And he immediately said that's next. And so I think that talking to him and this is why I love this podcast so much, because I talk to more and more people that teach me more and more things, and they want to build more and more projects. And eventually I know that something one day is just going to click and we're going to be smooth sailing from there. But for now, I'm going to have podcasts, blogs, websites, content. I'm just going to keep trucking, living life, showing you guys anywhere I go in California. If you guys want me to go see any places or, record any live videos and fun places for you guys to check out, let me know. Let me know what kind of adventure you'd like to see me go on. I know that might sound tacky for some of you, but for a lot of you, I know you'll understand what I'm getting at. Just like my vlog, podcast collaboration, that was super fun to do, and I want to be able to build my company up to where I can provide that opportunity for other brands, athletes, musicians, artists, people, all of you. So check me out on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. We're going to have a Medium soon. YouTube, of course. I am really trying to dig deep. I need all of you guys. I need a lot of participation with this one. I need to create a handle for all of my social media that is one and the same. And it's very hard to do because Hartman Media is taken. The Kyle Hartman Project is just way too long to have as a handle. And a lot of stuff in between just doesn't feel right. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check out the full Airbnb story. I'm sure I butchered a lot of those details, but I love it. I listen to those guys talk a lot. So I hope you guys learned something from it if you check it out. One last thing that I want to talk about before I leave you guys. I started online courses with Shaw Academy. I will put some of their links down below, but I got the course for free through T-Mobile Tuesdays. This isn't a sponsored T-Mobile ad. I'm a T-Mobile customer, so they give out free stuff every Tuesday. And there was okay, there's a free course on Shaw Academy. So I was like, oh, this is probably going to be stupid. But I checked it out. Shaw Academy is something that I'm now looking into a lot, because I started my first course. It was all regarding social media marketing, and they have courses that cover a ton of topics, but they have a 4-week course curriculum, and it's an hour per lesson, and there's only, I think, 2 lessons per week. So you just have 2-hour online webinars a week for 4 weeks, and you get a diploma from Shaw Academy for whatever it is that you got trained in. So I got this one for free. I haven't even gone to their whole website yet, but from what I looked at, it looks like it's going to be about $50 a month, but that gives you premium features. So they give out all the course tools. You get to save every bit of the course information. You get full access to everything. And it was a really, really cool experience inside the webinar. You have a live host. The webinars are live. And then you have a chat, so you can immediately text for any questions or anything, and they really get you involved. It was really neat for me to be interacting with my teacher, who was in Ireland tonight, her time. But then they have people working in that class that reply to everybody's chats, because there was like 800 people on this online webinar live. But the information they had in just the first introduction hour of our class blew me away. I've learned so much in that hour, and so I wanted to immediately throw that into this podcast episode, because I knew at that point today that I was going to be doing this alone. So I was like, I really need to tell these guys about Shaw Academy, because a lot of what I want to do is help people. Why not tell people everything that I do along my journey that is helping me? So if you guys check that out, I guarantee you might not get into the courses, but you know, if you think $50 a month is too much for the amount of education that this company puts out, you know, then I feel bad for you. You guys can pay $12 here for Netflix and Hulu, $12 there for Amazon Prime and PlayStation, whatever, you know. So start cutting out maybe a couple of those expenses and throw $50 a month into Shaw Academy, and I can promise you it's going to take you places. I'm going to leave you guys with a quote that I heard a couple days ago, and I immediately was like, oh, thanks. That's my next podcast quote. It goes, everybody dies, but not everybody lives. It's very simple, but I think it's very, very insightful. And I hope that you guys can all start trying to live a little bit more throughout your daily lives. If you guys want to get together and build a project together, please get a hold of me. If you guys have any comments, questions, complaints for the show, I need feedback. I love all the feedback that I've gotten so far, whether it's good or bad. It's feedback. It's data. It's only going to help me to get better. I love you all. Enjoy the rest of your week. This is another episode of the Kyle Hartman Project. Look for some big things in the future episodes to come. We're going to Irvine, California tomorrow and Sunday. Big car show, bunch of race cars. Dad's going to be talking to a lot of veteran nonprofits, though. We're going to talk about the podcast, a bunch of awesome stuff.